Welcome to another edition of the Dot Leap, and this time we're going to talk about where innovation goes to die, as well as some other news that have occurred in the past 10 days or so since the last edition. So, what's the newest? Well, Polkadot's friendly neighborhood whale Giotto had another idea recently. Why not make a system chain called OpenEVM, now renamed to Polkadot EVM, where it would be just an EVM, a new EVM chain that's a system chain without renewing the parachain slot or core time slots. And it would have an EVM environment, but it would use DOT for gas. There are several problems with this, and this is no doubt suggested because of Giotto's own experience while spearheading the dead coin airdrop, the dead meme coin airdrop, because that's when the team discovered that they actually have to have an existential amount of DOT on every account they want to airdrop to, which is a infrastructural and financial nightmare. And also, just in general, the build paralysis that teams experience when evaluating Polkadot in general. So launching things, random things, and generally popular Web3 experiments right now is really difficult in Polkadot, and doing this would really make it much, much easier. So I've read a lot of feedback about this proposal, and the public is kind of torn on it. And there are supporters and there are detractors, but in general, people don't like that it would compete with existing chains like Astar and Moonbeam, which is a legit concern. There is an advantage of being able to use MetaMask out of the box with the Polkadot ecosystem. However horrible MetaMask is in general, most people use it, unfortunately, and so this is the easier way to getting more users. This can also already be done on other Polkadot EVM chains, so it's not exactly a unique selling point here. There's also the ability to use substrate chains with the MetaMask substrate snap, so you can already use MetaMask with Polkadot chains, so it's not really that kind of a big deal. The real advantage here is that, well, I mean, apart from being able to use DOT for gas, this is also quite nice, but also you need to keep in mind that DOT has a different decimal count than Ether. And so this is another problem that you need to address, because you can do much less precise calculations with DOT than you can with Ether. This is a really big consideration that has no obvious solution. But I think the biggest advantage is the permanence. So if you have it as a system chain, that means it really can't go away. And I firmly believe you cannot list more than 10 protocols or products in the Web3 ecosystem since 2009, which have survived for more than 3 years and have a centralized team behind them. It just doesn't work. There's too few users, there is no revenue, and it's just creative bankruptcy. Everybody's copying each other, vampire attacking each other, shuffling the same 1,000 users around. It doesn't really financially work. So unless you build with permanence in mind, you will not be permanent. And honestly, Moonbeam and Astar and other EVMs in the Polkadot ecosystem also cannot survive without their teams, so they do not have this permanence. If their teams disappear, the chains will disappear, because nobody's going to be there to renew their parachain lease or core time or whatever they need. So how is an OpenEVM chain better than something like Base? You know, Base also uses the ecosystem's native token for gas, that's Ether, and it has a high economic security, also inherited from Ethereum. And it's very cheap and fast to use. So, you know, it has these advantages already built in, but also an arguably much more positive brand attached to it. But the Polkadot brand is a negative one, well, at least negatively perceived outside the Polkadot ecosystem. And Base is already, quote unquote, permanent. So it's a tricky situation, but mainly, I feel like this is a bad idea, this OpenEVM thing, this Polkadot EVM thing. I think it's a bad idea because government services are where innovation goes to die, and system chains are a government service, essentially. So here's how the story goes. Years ago at Remark, we came up with the nestable NFT concept. And so we applied it further to get equipables, cross-collection compatibility, and other NFT 2.0 features working. Modular NFTs grew out of this, and so we developed a really advanced infrastructure. And projects and companies were lining up to build with us. The interest was really, really palpable, despite the limitations of launching on this inscription-style NFT system on Kusama. and projects were willing to suffer through the DX and UX disadvantages just to utilize tech that is so advanced, tech that goes so beyond whatever was available on EVMs. Then, almost overnight, and without even trying to consult with the NFT working group that was active at the time in Polkadot's Matrix servers, Parity launched the Unique's Pallet, a very basic, rudimentary NFT minting capability for Asset Hub, then known as StateMine or StateMint. It was written on a whim as a response by Gav himself, not because he was interested in it, but because he got tired of being pestered about that chain needing NFTs. And NFTs it got. It got NFTs 1.0, hard-coded in their limitation on the chain's very runtime. Without programmability, there was no way to add NFT 2.0 functionality on top, and suddenly, instead of most projects asking how do we build with you, we started getting the question, why would we build with you, when there's an official way to mint NFTs? And that was the key word, official. Launching an official, quote-unquote, EVM chain would signal capitulation after Gav expressed disdain for EVM many times and insisted on building Ink for WASM instead. This would effectively kill Ink, which even at version 5.0, which is coming up, is still struggling to find a single production deployment. It would siphon funds and interest from Moonbeam, Astar, and other EVMs in the Polkadot ecosystem, effectively vampire attacking them for users and developers. Because of course, launching on a chain which might go away if their team disappears and their lease expires is more risky than launching on a system chain with EVM. And it would stop any and all EVM innovation in Polkadot, because right now, the Polkadot side of Web3 is being built by people who do not use Web3. This skateboard is being designed by cyclists. It makes no sense, and those leading development paradoxically have no experience with building within or for the environment that they are building. So it is my opinion that the people in charge of OpenEVM would undoubtedly cause stagnation and possibly exodus across the board. It would be net harmful. So what is the solution here? Well, let's consider what we actually want. Or more accurately, what Giotto is after here. So Giotto wants there to be a Turing-complete execution environment which encourages experimentation. A litmus test can be how easy it is to launch a meme coin. Not a very high bar, right? One of the commenters also says that he wants to be able to say that he launched on Polkadot, which he is not able to say if he launches on Astar or Moonbeam, because he's launching in these private environments, right? Well, private business-like environments. So if you look at it solely from that perspective, I would say the solution is obvious. Open Ink, not OpenEVM. The ecosystem needs a system chain that uses the contracts palette and finally enables a production environment in which to launch Ink contracts. This passes the litmus test, adds programmability, and possibly kickstarts an entire industry the way it was always intended, programming on Polkadot. Tutorials, guides, ecosystem examples, DEXs, everything can be reinvented if you really want to on Ink, and it would actually improve Ink if you used it finally. If people dog-fooded what they're building, if people built on Ink while building Ink, it would improve it dramatically. What do you think about this? The comments form is open on our newsletter or on the YouTube channel or on Twitter. Leave us some feedback and let's discuss this. In other news, Polkadot and Kusama updates. Polkadot 1.7 was released. There are changes in the link in the newsletter, but basically notable ones are XCM format version 4 with transactional processing has been merged in. A non-fungible adapter was added for manipulating NFTs through XCM. Fellowship members can now swap their account IDs, and cross-chain core time region transfers on Rococo have been enabled. And an initial core time pricing discussion on the Polkadot forum has garnered some significant interest and discussion. On the development side, Rob posted a blueprint for making Polkadot SDK's state tree blazing fast on SSDs, adding much to performance. Joe Petrovsky proposes changing the address format to be consensus-based or based on the relay chain in charge rather than per parachain, which would make address formats much simpler in wallets across the board on all these substrate-based chains. Polkadot SDK's development documentation on XCM was clarified a little bit, and Kusama parachains experienced a slowdown or got stuck for a bit the other day. A postmortem and a bug fix are underway preventing this from reoccurring. The contract cargo crate version 4 release candidate 2 has been merged, which means final soon, and Inc. version 5 release candidate 1 is out, also final soon. Core time vouchers are coming in the form of tradable NFTs, and Polkadot SDK users can now define a percentage staking reward cap from inflation in a single era, which means that if an era produces too many tokens as a result of inflation, this amount can be capped for distribution to validators, while the rest would be minted directly into the treasury instead. On the governance side, we have the Web3 Foundation releasing the Decentralized Voices program, delegating 180k KSM and 42 million DOT of voting power to active voters to ensure a fair decision-making process. The process is gated, you need to apply separately, and then you need to argue for your position, like as if you were a representative in government, but you then get a lot of voting power to influence the decisions in the ecosystem. Proposal 469 was absolutely hilarious to learn about. There is a proposal that asks for hundreds of thousands of dollars to register 2 Swiss foundations, one for Mythical Games, which has already had a foundation and has shipped virtually nothing in this ecosystem, coasting along on pump announcements and partnerships, for them to be able to legally launch a new Polkadot native shitcoin, which I think is absolutely hilarious and should be shot down with prejudice. The Dead Foundation also wants a foundation in that same proposal, which is also ridiculous, a foundation for a meme coin. This misses the spirit of Web3 entirely, and it's the ultimate simp for the old world regulators, which I think is completely backwards. So I encourage you to vote against Proposal 469. The Fellowship's RFC 10 proposal has passed, and all initial core time profits will be burned, adding a new deflationary mechanic to the DOT token. A vibrant discussion about a public goods storage chain on Polkadot was had in Polkassembly. I am against it for the same reason I am against OpenEVM. A system chain doing storage is not only a vampire attack on other system chains, but it's also a preventer of innovation. The proposal to build up an inscription ecosystem on Polkadot is luckily failing. Inscriptions were done on Polkadot 3 years ago by Remark and have proven not to scale. Simulating execution and then state change by consolidating off-chain messages, which is what we did, when stateful execution environments are available on-chain is silly and wasteful. And doing it just for the network spam and to generate activity where there is none is an indicator of a failed ecosystem, not a successful one, so this should be rejected. Giotto has also decided to reform the ambassador program. Pushback has been severe from many sides. The ambassadors are up in arms. The referendum to acquire USDT and USDC for the Polkadot treasury is passing unanimously, and the referendum to start Beefy on Kusama is also passing unanimously. A referendum for a .code school has been posted. Absolutely needed. I encourage you to vote for this. We need more trained developers and we need them now. Without tinkerers and experimenters, Polkadot is nothing. So let's train them, let's show them how it's done. The proposal to open a Polkadot-centric co-working space in New York City is failing, and I honestly think it should. It is absurd to look for an office worth $2 million in one of the world's most expensive cities, just for most of the world to continue working remotely. Instead, just to rent a floor in an existing co-working building. On the dog food side of things, we have been dApp staking on Astar. So we've staked some Astar tokens behind Singular, the application, and things have not gone so swimmingly. So check out the video on our YouTube channel. On the side of connected parachains, dApps, and others, Talisman has suffered a Discord hack, but the problem was quickly resolved with preventative measures for other teams posted promptly. Polkassembly's delegation functionality has been revamped, and Starlay Finance on Akala has suffered a breach. The community says this is another nail in the Akala coffin, which just can't seem to stay down. Integrity's January wrap-up is posted, and it includes a new SDK release and the public test of Incognity, their privacy sidechain for Polkadot. Exiled Racers Week 1 results are out for both predictions and races, and Apex Chimps version 3 is migrating to Astar from the Remark KSM inscription-like version. There's a pink-powered play in action in Everloot, which is themed after the pink meme coin token, and Interlay has introduced co-mining with Bitcoin via Optimine. I'm not sure why anybody would want to attach themselves to Bitcoin these days, but it is what it is, and we have more mining options now. You can now view and copy pool addresses in the Polkadot staking dashboard, which is a nice little UX upgrade. And Astar's dApp staking version 3 is live, which, as I mentioned, we dogfooded. Unique Networks' January update has been published, and Moonbeam's January update as well, which includes ecosystem growth, runtime upgrade functionality, educational efforts, and more things that they've done. You should also not forget to claim your Centrifuge crowd loan rewards. The deadline is in April. As HydraDX has also increased rewards, so does Bifrost. This puts these casinos neck and neck, and they are competing for user acquisition. Manta, meanwhile, expands token support to Stone and WUSDM. No, I also do not know what these are. On the community and ecosystem side, you can contribute to community PRs on the Polkadot Wiki repo and get rewarded. The next Polkadot Blockchain Academy wave is taking place in Singapore from May 20th to June 20th in 2024, and StakeNode's awesome support the builder's message to Dimension has been posted to Twitter, or X, where he kind of praises them for not shying away from shouting out their inspirations in their documentation. Spoiler alert, they've shouted out Substrate and Polkadot in general. Polkadot Decoded 2024 goes to Brussels in July, and the Dot is Dead meme coins roadmap has been posted along with a new game, which is a fun breakout clone with roguelike perks and NFT mints behind the scenes based on Unique Network. Works pretty smoothly. I'm very happy with how it turned out. BitCountry has also joined the Dead Legion with support for some campaigns. It seems like Dead and Pink are both growing at a very rapid pace. Paradox has started a public good initiative to provide deposits for general admin and whitelisted caller tracks in open governance, allowing teams who aren't dot rich to propose important changes to Polkadot. A referendum similar to this effort to fund a decision deposit sponsor has failed. ETF Network gets a decentralized futures grant, which funds this effort to bring a substrate-based blockchain, leveraging a unique consensus mechanism focused on publicly verifiable on-chain randomness and time lock encryption. All of this sounds like buzzword soup to me, so we'll see what comes out of it. WAG Media's call for content creation is on Twitter, and there are bounties to be claimed, so go make some content for them. And Nova Wallet's video guide on proxy account is a precious resource for understanding proxies. Event maker Decentered Studio wins the latest Decentralized Futures grant and paves the way for high-profile events around the Polkadot ecosystem. On the tools and releases side, Substrate API Sidecar has a new version, Asset Transfer API has a new version, Dead has released their pretty cool snapshot tool, which you can use to take snapshots of token balances on Substrate-based chains, and the Scale Decode tool is out with a new version with some breaking changes you should know about. All of these links are in the written version of the newsletter. And don't forget to check out NFT Review, a related publication that focuses on NFTs from the ecosystem of Polkadot and beyond. Among other things, there's this Dead mining game, which is taking Polkadot by storm, and an exploration of its NFTs, and Disney aiming to make the metaverse woke. In terms of incentivized feedback for this round, I am wondering if you would like to listen to a .leap podcast and what format you would like it to be, if so. I'm leaning towards the Rogan-like freeform chit-chat podcast with some topical questions, and I'm thinking of getting, for the first guest, Joshi Orndorff, who's one of the most prominent builders in the Substrate ecosystem, has been here for a very long time, has been doing some really creative things like recreating Bitcoin on Substrate along with proof of work mining. So I think he would be a very interesting conversationalist. I'd like to find out what makes him tick. So let me know if you like this idea by posting in our Google form or on X as replies to our post. Links are in the written version of the newsletter. Thank you all for your attention, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.